हेलो फ्रेंड्स, केजी क्लासेस में आपका स्वागत है। आज हम आपको विलियम वर्ड्स के लाइफ एंड वर्क्स के बारे में बताएंगे। लाइफ ऑफ विलियम वर्ड्स 1770 टू 1850। हेडिंग है वर्थ एंड पेरेंटेज। विलियम वर्ड्सवर्थ वाज बोर्न ऑन द 7th of April 1770 at Cockermouth on the Derwent in Cumberland. His father, John Wordsworth, was an attorney at Cockermouth and agent of Sir James Lowther, afterwards the first Earl of Lansdale. His mother, Anne Coxon, was the only daughter of William Coxon, a well-to-do mercer at Penrith, and of Dorothy Crackenthorpe, whose ancestor had been Lord of the Manor of Newbigin, near Penrith. So Wordsworth came of gentle kin. He was the second of 5 children of his parents, the other being Richard, Dorothy, John, and Christopher. Heading his childhood. As a child, Wordsworth was of a stiff, moody, and violent temper. Therefore, his mother was always worried about him, thinking that he would be remarkable either for good or for evil. 2 incidents of his childhood are noteworthy. Some indignity having been once put upon him, he thought of taking his own life, but his heart failed him in the last moment. On another occasion, when he was whipping tops with his brother Richard in his grandfather's drawing room, he stuck his whip through a hanging family picture. When he asked his brother whether he could dare to do so, he solved his want of boldness by refusing to do so. Wordsworth was no doubt punished for it, but as he writes, from some want of judgment and punishment inflicted, he had become perverse and obstinate in defying chastisement, and rather proud of it than otherwise. Heading Education at Hawkshead. In 1778, Wordsworth and his brother Richard were sent to the grammar school at Hawkshead. There was no strict discipline here, therefore Wordsworth had the opportunity of enjoying a happy life here. He was allowed to read whatever books he liked. Wordsworth himself remarks, "Of my earliest days at school I have little to say, but that they were very happy ones, chiefly because I was left at liberty then in the vacation to read whatever books I liked. For example, first I read all Fielding works, Don Quixote, Gil Blas, and any parts of Swift that I liked, Gulliver's Travel, and the Tale of the Tub, being both much to my taste at this period." Another noteworthy thing is that Wordsworth took special delight in rambling over the fells, fishing, boating, birds nesting on the crich, riding to Furness Abbey, and skating upon the lake. Here Wordsworth received his early impression. The impression derived neither from books nor from companions, but from the majesty and loveliness of scenes around him. From nature, his lifelong mistress loved with the first heats of youth. Mears. Here he wrote some poems also, such as "The Summer Vacation," "Return to School," and an irregular sonnet which appeared in the European magazine for March 1787. Heading Education at Cambridge. In October 1787, Wordsworth went up as an undergraduate to St. John's College, Cambridge. Here he showed himself as an ordinary student who often neglect regular academical course, perhaps because he considered it as narrow. He disliked the petty restrictions of university life and felt like a fall of the year, ill tortured for captivity. That he did not like the university atmosphere is evident from the following lines that he wrote in the prelude, book third of college labors of the lecturer's room, all studded round as thick as chairs could stand, with loyal students faithful to their books, half and half idlers, hardy recusants, and honest dances of important days. Examination when the man was beat as in the balance of excessive hopes, trembling withal and commendable fears, small jealousies and triumphs, good or bad. I make short mention. The vacation heading है. Wordsworth spent his first summer vacation at Hawkshead. He felt a new sympathy for the old dame in whose house he still lodged here. After a night spent in dancing, he was deeply moved by a splendid sunrise. He felt that he was henceforth a dedicated spirit. Speaking of this experience, Wordsworth says in the prelude, "Ah, need I say, dear friends, that to the brim my heart was full. I made no boast, but boasts were then made for me. Bond unknown to me was given that I should be able, else sinning greatly, I dedicated spirit." His second long vacation was passed in touring through Dovedale to Penrith, and it brought him a further gain in human affection. He rambled with his sister Dorothy and her friend Mary Hutchinson, who had been his school fellow at Penrith and who later became his wife. In his third long vacation, he undertook a pedestrian tour through France and Switzerland in the company of his college friend Robert Jones. Wordsworth heartily enjoyed this expedition, and as Mears says, Wordsworth and his friends encountered on this tour many a string. Wordsworth and his friend in string symbol of the expectancy that was running through the nation of the Europe. It may be noted here that during this tour, Wordsworth landed in Calais on the very eye of that great federal day when the trees of liberty were planted all over France. The two friends returned to Cambridge in October 1790. Wordsworth took his BA degree on January 27, 1791 and left Cambridge with no fixed program for a vacation, heading a stay in London and a visit to France. After taking his BA degree, Wordsworth went to live for some time with his uncle William Cookson at Fornsett near Norwich. His uncle pressed him for a career, but Wordsworth had no fixed mind. He went to London, where he idled 3 months. This visit introduced human sympathy into his thoughts of nature and made him recognize the unity of man. Neither the vigorous activity of Londoners nor their ceaseless pursuit of pleasure could lure him away from the peculiar ways of passing the time. In London he had only a few acquaintances. However, this period in London was not quite unproductive. Here he composed 3 sonnets and such tender poems as the Reverie of Poor Susan. But Wordsworth cherished the idea of becoming a touring tutor if only he had a through knowledge of France. So in November 1791 he crossed to France ostensibly to learn French. First he went to Paris, where he visited the Legislative Assembly and the ruins of the Bastille. He passed through revolutionized Paris with satisfaction and sympathy, but with little active emotion. Here he made the acquaintance of the revolutionaries. Particularly, he was charmed by the personality of Michael de Beaupuis, an ardent Republican whom he met at Blois in 1792. The conversation with Beaupuis brought to the surface of his mind ideas of freedom under natural law that had been latent in him since childhood. He gradually became an ardent admirer of Beaupuis' ideology. At Blois, he met Annette Boleyn, a French girl with whom he fell in love. He did not marry her, but she bore him a daughter in 1792, during a period of disillusionment. When in 1792 Wordsworth returned to Paris, he was in a mood of joining the revolutionaries actively, but his intentions were nipped in the bud when his guardian in England cut off his allowances. He was compelled to return to England, and next few years were a period of disillusionment and disappointment for him. But his discontent became a greater factor in his becoming an author. Early in 1793 appeared his poems An Evening Walk and Descriptive Sketches, in which Coleridge saw the pronounced emergence of an original poetical genius. Though they were received by the public coldly at this time, Wordsworth was filled with remorse on account of his desertion of anarchy. Beside the violent course of events in France rudely shattered his dreams of a new world of liberty, equality, and fraternity. War broke out between France and England, dividing his loyalties in the most agonizing way. The question of adopting a suitable profession was still before him. His prospect in life became still more precarious. He lived a desultory life for some time. In the early part of 1794, he went to the Lakes and soon after went to Halifax to talk over his prospect with his sister Dorothy, who was then staying here. He had resolved not to take order and had neither strength of mind, purse, or constitution for the bar, nor could we hear of a place as a tutor. However, he considered poetry as his only calling, his office upon earth, and in this he got a strong moral support of his sister. Wordsworth acknowledged his debt to Dorothy in the following lines: She gave me eyes, she gave me ears, and humble tears and delicate fears, a heart, the fountain of sweet tears, and love, and thought, and joy, adding a settled light of race down. In 1795, Wordsworth fortunately received a legacy of 900 left for him by his friend and admirer Reginald Calvert, who was the brother of William Calvert, an old school fellow of Wordsworth. He had been nursed by Wordsworth in his illness. He died of consumption in 1795, leaving 500 to Wordsworth. This timely gift saved Wordsworth from a lot of berries, and he now thought of settling for a while. So he came to rest down in the southeast of Somersetshire to live with his sister. Here he remained till July 1797. This period is significant because at this time Wordsworth gradually forgot the disillusionment caused by the French Revolution. Once again he began to take interest in nature, which was his incessant source of inspiration. Here he also wrote Guilt and Sorrow and his only drama The Borders, having a stay at Alfoxden. In 1797, Wordsworth, along with Dorothy, moved to Alfoxden to be near to Coleridge, who was living with his wife at Nether Stowey. Wordsworth had an intimate affection with Coleridge. In fact, Wordsworth, Dorothy, and Coleridge were known as three persons and one soul. Helen Derbyshire gives an account of the intimacy between Wordsworth and Coleridge. Coleridge, with his eager, valuable enthusiasm, his genius for philosophical speculation, his sensitive, receptive mind, offered Wordsworth for the first time an intellectual companionship that answered his needs. Wordsworth, with his deeper hold upon experience, his steadier mind, and surer balance of intellect and emotion, inspired in Coleridge an admiration such as he had felt for no other man. Here the two great poets thought of embarking upon a look of poems to defray the expenses of a walking tour to London. This venture resulted into the publication of the monumental lyrical ballad in 1798, having a stay in Germany. The income which came from the sale of lyrical ballad enabled Wordsworth to undertake a tour to Germany with Coleridge and Dorothy. Wordsworth liked to stay at Goslar, whereas Coleridge moved to Ratzeburg on account of severe cold. Wordsworth remained confined to his lodging, but he devoted his time in learning German language from books and dictionaries. Here Wordsworth wrote some of his best poems like Ruth Nutting, the Poet's Epitaph, and the Lucy poems, heading his married and settled life. In December 1799, Wordsworth came to settle with Dorothy at Dove Cottage, Townshend, Grasmere. This period is the most fruitful period of his life. He enjoyed the company of devoted friends and sought pleasure in the lovely forms of nature, and above all he lived in highly inspiring company of his dear sister Dorothy, with whom he shared his joy and fears. In October 1802, Wordsworth married Mary Hutchinson, who proved to be a devoted wife and companion to Wordsworth. According to Mayers, this marriage was the crowning stroke of Wordsworth's felicity, the poetic recompense for his steady advocacy of all simple and noble things. Wordsworth was lucky in having a wife who, if not possessed of the remarkable accomplishment and insight into the beauties of nature as possessed by Dorothy, had yet qualities which were calculated to make her home happy. She proved a true helpmate to him, dearer far than life and light are dear. Wordsworth's own admiration of her may be judged from his poem. She was a phantom of delight. The following lines are a faithful description of her. A countenance in which did meet sweet records promises as sweet, a creature not too bright or good for human nature's daily food, for transient sorrow simple, whilst praise, blame, love, kisses, tears, and smiles. Likewise, the following lines of the last stanza of this poem sum up her character. The region firm, the temperate will, endurance, foresight, strength, and skill, a perfect woman nobly planned to warn, to comfort, and command. It is interesting to note that some critics attribute the following lines of the Daffodils to Mary Hutchinson. They flash upon that inward eye which is the bliss of solitude during the period of his stay at Grasmere. Wordsworth composed his great philosophical poem The Recluse in 3 parts, of which only the second part was published under the title of The Excursion, having a last period. Early in 1813, Wordsworth moved to another place called Rydal Mount, his favorite and last abode. Here he fortunately enjoyed the company of such illustrious friends as Southey, Coleridge, and De Quincey. As touring was his passion, he undertook tours to Switzerland and Italy in the company of Dorothy, his wife, and a few friends. His tours included Holland, North Wales, Belgium, and Scotland, but he suffered a number of misfortunes as well. His sister Dorothy fell seriously ill in 1832 and became a permanent invalid. Coleridge died in 1847, and soon after his sister-in-law Sarah Hutchinson, and in 1847 his daughter Dora died. All these calamities cast a veil of gloom on the poet's decaying physical power, with the result that he succumbed to pleurisy in 1850. He was buried in the Grasmere churchyard. Thanks, best of luck.